All right, you've made it to day 4. This is the final fall semester exam review. Once you've gone through this, you will have done approximately 55 questions, and there are only 40 questions on the final exam. You will have seen a little bit of everything, so hopefully this was helpful for you. Let's go ahead and start off with determining the effects on the graphs of quadratics. It says Paula graphed the function y equals x squared minus 4. She performed some transformations, and her new equation was y equals negative x squared minus 7. Which answer choice best describes the transformations? Well, there are lots of ways you can do this. It depends on how well you understand what the changes are. You can identify what the changes are and then use that. I'm going to use the calculator because it's a more visual thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot the first one. So this is x squared. Oops, let me do it up here. X squared minus 4. Okay. And I'm going to plot the second one below it. Negative x squared minus 7. Now, this is not going to do you much good unless you change the appearance of the second line. So what you can do is you can scroll to the left, all the way to the left. See where it's blinking right there? If you press enter once, it makes the second line a thicker line, a bold line. So that way you can talk about how it changes from the skinny line to the fat line. So if we go ahead and look at this graph, there's our first line, and there's our second line. So I noticed two things. First of all, I noticed that it is flipped over. It's reflected over the x-axis. The other thing I noticed is that it shifted down a few units. So we want those two things to be reflected over here. So reflected over the y-axis. Well, reflected over the y-axis means it does this. Okay, so if you have a U shape like this, it flips it this way. Which, I mean, yeah, it kind of does, but it's hard to tell. And it's translated up 3 units. Well, I can tell that this darker line is not up 3 units from this one, so that's out. Okay. Letter B says it's reflected over the y-axis and translated right 3 units. Well, it isn't translated right at all. It's just down, so that's out. Letter C says reflected over the x-axis, then translated left 3 units. Well, it definitely translated over the x-axis, which makes your U shape, like I said, flip over like this, but it did not transfer left at all. And then here we have reflected over the x-axis and translated down 3 units. That's what we mentioned in the first place. So that's the correct answer there. Number 2 says, which of the following equations has the same vertex as y equals x squared but is wider? So we're going to use this again, checking each of our answer choices. So here's x squared. This is our first one. Our second one is going to be, we're going to take a look at the first one. So it's x squared plus 2. So we need the same vertex. Oops, let me get that out. X squared plus 2. We're looking for the same vertex, but making it wider. So here, there's our first line. There's our second line. They do not have the same vertex, so that's out. Vertex is where they turn around. It's the middle point. Let's go to the second one. We're going to change this second line to to x squared minus 2. All right, there's my first graph. Second graph, again, they don't share the same vertex. They have different vertices, so that's out. All right, letter C. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to change this to 1/2 x squared. I need to delete this last bit here because that doesn't apply anymore. So this is letter C. Let's go ahead and look at that graph. There's my first one. There's my second one. They do have the same vertex, and this one did go from being thinner to being wider. So C is the correct answer. Number 3 asks, a quadratic equation is shown on the graph below. Which of the following are the roots? Remember, roots, it's another word for zeros, another word for solutions, another word for x-intercepts, which means it is where the graph crosses the x-axis, which is right there and right there. Now my graph isn't labeled, but we can count. This one, if that's the origin, this is at -1. This is at 1, 2, 3, positive 4. So that would be -1, positive 4, or 2 and 3. Number 4 asks, what is the solution set for the quadratic equation x squared minus 81 equals 0? Now, I'm going to do this with the calculator because there is a fast way to do this using the numbers. But when we did it on the test, it was the most missed question. And I don't necessarily think that that's something we need to practice, is fixing that now. I think what's more important for us is to use what we can be good at, which is the calculator, and then finding the answers that way. Now, since it's already equal to 0, that means that we can put it in as f of x equals x squared minus 81, or y equals x squared minus 81. If it were equal to anything other than 0, we would need to make it equal to 0, but for right now we should be good. So let me go and plug this in. Clear out these two. We're going to put in x squared minus 81 and look at the graph. Now when we're looking for the graph, we're looking for the same thing we found up here. Okay? Oh, look at that. I did the wrong thing. It should be just x squared minus 81. We're looking for the same thing we're looking for up here, which is where the graph crossed the x-axis. And we can see it crossing at 2 places here. It looks like if you zoom in, or if you look at it really close, about -9 and about +9. We can check that by going to the table, going to -9, and at -9, y equals 0. So -9 is one of them. We're going to go check +9 to make sure that that's also a solution. And sure enough, +9 is as well. So that's how we would check that answer. Okay, we're going to take a break before we go on to page 2.